Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. We are the podcast where two friends show each other movies, shows, and anything else that they need to see, hear, or experience. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm joined, as always, by the uncultured Justin.
Hey,
Today, we're getting cursed by a horny witch and somewhat transparently protesting the Iraq War. It's the 2004 Studio Ghibli classic, Howl's Moving Castle.
you're right. This is totally anti-Bush
So it's
propaganda.
Miyazaki wasn't a fan of the war, I
Not a
would
big
not
fan.
say.
No, that's crazy.
Justin,
Yeah,
I feel like I keep doing animated movies as my pick. Have you done an animated movie so far, or is that kind of my wheelhouse?
I did last year. I think at about this time we did Over the Garden Wall.
Oh, of course we did.
Yeah, of course we
Hello.
did. Yeah, which you famously became obsessed with. Wait, no, that's not the one. You didn't become obsessed with the soundtrack for that one. You became obsessed with the soundtrack for Little Shop of Horrors.
Still am.
Still
Yeah, I'm fully expecting that to show up on like my Spotify end of year thing.
100%. It better.
So if this podcast has done one thing, it's done that.
Well, I will say that yesterday in doing research for the end game that we'll listen to later, I listened to many different versions of the merry-go-round of life, the
Oh
Howl's
my
Moving Castle theme.
gosh.
So I was sort of familiar with that musical piece via TikTok. It's just playing it sometimes in just like random like makers just making beautiful things, either like painting or drawing. Nothing really to do specifically with the movie itself. So like I was familiar with hearing like that melody, and I was like, "Oh shit, is this what it's from?" And they play it
Mhm.
nonstop, and it's amazing because it's so good.
It's kind of like the only theme in this movie, and it
It
rocks.
it slaps 100%.
I'm I listen to like film and TV scores a lot when I work, and I always that one always pops up. I love Spirited Away, and I've recently like mixed in Kiki's Delivery Service.
Okay.
The music from that movie kind of rocks as well, and so now I keep getting them all mixed up with each other because it's always like these like pleasant, almost like sorrowful piano scores
Definitely.
um,
Yeah, there
that really stick
there
with
is
you.
some heartache and some melancholia for sure in the motif itself. And it kind of, juxtaposes with the sheer madness that is going on screen at the same time.
This is a crazy movie, both visually and plot wise.
Yeah.
Let me kind of set the stage here. So we are in our first wild card month here at the
Yep.
UCU, which means that we're essentially just picking movies that we want to watch. And so we started this month out with um, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was a cowabunga
Damn
blast,
right.
and now we are wrapping it up with Howl's Moving Castle, which I have seen many times in the past, and this is an intro for you, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And
I would hope
yeah,
so.
so to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being a cowabunga blast, Howl's Moving Castle is a Baja Blast. And
Baja
Baja
Blast.
Blast because it is not what you expect it to be. It is refreshing and unique, and it's pretty to look at.
Oh my god, it's
It's
beautiful.
beautiful. But yeah, I had never seen this before. I knew nothing. I
What's
yeah, so like
what's what's your Miyazaki
yeah.
experience like? Where are you at going into this?
So I own the only other movie I have seen by Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki, that kind of stuff, was Spirited Away several years ago, and I only saw it once. But I remember it
Hmm.
being, like, okay, I see what the hype is about these movies. I can see why there's such a fandom. I can understand all of the pieces that go into it of for never seeing it before. So, but that was my only touchstone. But I had heard just through just being like in the nerd culture, that kind of stuff, of Kiki's Delivery Service, of My Neighbor Totoro, of uh, uh, Ponyo, and all the other movies that are under the umbrella. I knew of them, but I just never got around to revisiting. And so, like, admittedly, I will say, like, I texted you yesterday that, like, we had 30 minutes left. This movie is wild. It is, sexy, but, like, I don't know, all over the place, and, the description what you sent me back is it exactly encapsulates of what this movie is. It is inaccessible. Inaccessible, yet, but so fun, which it is, 100%.
That kind I mean, that does kind of tie into my history with this movie and why I picked it. When you think of Miyazaki and you think of Studio Ghibli, like a lot of people do think of Spirited Away because it is a
Yeah.
masterpiece. That movie is fantastic. But most people have seen it, and so we couldn't really cover it on this podcast because that was the one that you had seen.
Mhm.
And so I thought I really wanted to cover a Miyazaki, and I thought about Howl's Moving Castle. The thing with my history here is I didn't really like it when I first saw it. I thought it was really slow, and the plot was like convoluted and again like inaccessible in a lot of ways. Like
Yeah,
there's themes that you can relate to, but like what is actually happening on screen, it's like I cannot like piece these things
yeah.
together. But I weirdly just like over the years, it's been like 10 plus years since I first saw this movie. I keep coming back to the visuals and the iconography of this movie and the music, and like the characters
Mhm.
themselves are just so fun to be around, I found.
Yeah.
It's kind of become this weird taste in my mouth that I've come to
Mhm.
love. And now I love watching it. We finished it the other night. And I mean, we're jumping way ahead to the end, but it finishes with them kind of like all literally flying off on a castle into the sky, and I was like, hell yeah,
You're like,
this
"Fuck
rocks.
yeah."
Like, when would you ever see this anywhere else?
Yeah, yeah. Opening
Um,
the way for the sequel, Howl's Flying Castle, it was really fun. Um, so, Ryan had also never seen this before,
mhm.
and, but she had never seen any of the Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki films either. So she's like, "I don't know what I'm in for." She's like, "My only kind of, like, I don't know, kind of connection, not even really, but, like, Pokemon growing up, like, is, like, as far as, like, anime kinda gets, but this isn't really anime." Um,
The way I've heard it described on like other podcasts is like Miyazaki and Ghibli are kind of like the Disney of Japan.
okay.
And so the way that we have a very clear image of in our minds when we think of Disney movies and when we think of like that style of 2D animation, now 3D animation, that's kind of what people think of when they think of Miyazaki movies as well. They all kind of follow this very specific look. They're all
Yeah.
like beautifully rendered. Some of as his movies progress, like he makes a lot of movies in like the 80s and 90s, and his movies are a little bit more spread out right now. He actually recently released his latest this past
Oh,
month,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So it's something we could maybe see soon.
Mhm.
But as his movies progress, like there definitely are major elements of 2D animation that gradually have more computer elements to them. Like you
Yeah.
can tell definitely in this movie that the castle itself is
Right.
CGI at certain points, like all the exterior
Mhm.
shots. And it's really interesting and beautiful, like how they're able to blend those together.
Yeah, it was pretty
Uh,
seamless, but yeah,
mhm.
like, from, like, frame 1, as soon as it opens, we're, like, in the hat shop or whatever, it's just like, "Oh my god, this is gorgeous." Like, the way that they
Mhm.
play with light and the way that they animated it, I'm thinking specifically to one scene, and then we're jumping all over the place, but, like, um, she goes to, like, find Howl, like, in his, like, little tunnel area or something like that, where he's, like, kind of a bird person at that point. Out of context, the out of pocket, these quotes and things that we're gonna be talking about are just gonna sound hilarious to the layperson who's never seen the movie. But anyway, so, like, she's walking down the tunnel, and she has, like, one single, like, candle, and just I remember looking at it, like, through the tunnel, like, the way that the light is just following everything, and there's so many unique sparkly things.
It's
It's
beautiful.
gorgeous.
It's like it reminds me of like the tunnel sequences in Coraline, how like things like extend and like there's like 3D
Yeah,
elements as
but this
well.
was all, I imagine, majority of it was, hand drawn
Hmm.
animation, which is,
Let's do
yeah. Let's give me.
let's do this. This is a impossible movie to talk about without really knowing the plot. Why don't we get to the plot first, and then I'll let you continue your thoughts around just like first impressions
Fuck.
and stuff. Right?
Okay.
I know, I know. This is going to be difficult. Let me get you some stats, and then I'll have you do a 1 minute plot
Great.
description, just so our millions of listeners aren't left
I know.
confused.
Don't be.
Um, Howl's Moving Castle was released in November 2004 in Japan. I'm not entirely sure where the dubbed version was released. By the way, did you watch the original or the
We
English dub?
watched the English dub. That was the one that was available on HBO
Yeah.
on yeah, HBO Max. Fuck you, I'm not calling you Max. The one that was available, and yeah, it was the English dub. And super
I have some
surprised,
thoughts on the
super
dub.
surprised.
Yeah.
Soon as the title character comes on the screen, I'm like, hang on, I know this voice.
You're like, that's not the voice I would expect to come out of that
Yeah,
body.
Christian
Yeah.
Bale, Batman.
This was like what, like a year before Batman
The
Begins?
exact same year. Batman Begins came out
Just like
2005.
buffed out Christian Bale, like stepping into the recording studio in between takes on Batman to record Howl,
Yeah.
having a breakdown about his hair.
Amazing. God, that breakdown. I love it.
Okay, released in November 2004, directed, of course, by Hayao Miyazaki, one of the more famous directors on that side of the pond, we could say. The English dub stars the voices of Emily Mortimer, Gene Simmons, Christian Bale, Lauren Bacall, Josh Hutcherson. Did you catch that?
PETA from the Hunger Games?
PETA's the little Markle boy.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Blythe Danner plays the quasi-evil sorceress lady, Madame Suleiman.
Yeah.
She's Gwyneth Paltrow's mom. That's fun.
Whoa. Okay.
And then, of course, connecting it back to our Love miniseries back in February, I believe, we have the one and only Billy Crystal playing a sarcastic fire demon.
Amazing. Yeah. As soon as, Calcifer comes on screen, Brian's like, hang on, is that Billy Crystal? I was like, no, that's not Billy Crystal. There's no way. She's like, it's Billy Crystal. And we look it up. Holy shit.
We as a culture talk too much about Mike Wazowski and not enough about Calcifer, the fire demon.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah, like what a weird cast.
It's insane.
Voice cast, but I mean, it works. It works for me. Emily Mortimer is great as young what's her name? Young Sophie. But we liked
she's got a fantastic
we
voice.
liked old Sophie better.
Yeah.
She's just like snarky and just kind of just a great old lady.
Gene Simmons, I don't know enough about like what else she's in. I think she's just like an older Hollywood actress. I believe she's no longer with us.
Gene Simmons, famously the lead singer for Kiss, Rock and Roll, Every Day, Party All Night, that kind of thing. Every day.
He really like took the time out of the day to really perfect that voice, and he went to Miyazaki and he was like, I'm gonna say something crazy, but I want to play old Sophie.
And Miyazaki was like, you know what, I need to put the phone down because I was getting ready to call you, and here you come into my studio.
I need to put the phone down and pick up my jaw because
that's amazing.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah.
All right. The movie is based on a 1986 novel by Diana Wynne Jones. I have notes on her later because I really love the books that she writes.
Ooh.
This it's funny that you say like there's a sequel to this movie. There isn't actually a sequel to the animated movie. There's a sequel to the books.
Ooh,
though.
That's fun.
I think it's literally called like Castle in the Air. Because it's about like, I don't know if it's the same castle, but it kind of continues that world with slightly different characters.
Yeah.
And then there's a threequel. There's like a 3-part book that was released many years later. That's also Crazy House related.
Connecting the dots. Yeah.
She's kind of got like a castle trilogy. Very interesting.
Fun.
But yeah, she typically writes like fantasy sci-fi novels that are more young adult-ish, but are really, what I've found is like really interesting world building. She really like is able to put you in these fantasy worlds that she completely makes up and makes them seem like very genuine and lived in, which I find to be a pro of this
Yeah.
movie. Um, Last stat I have here: this movie made $236 million against a budget of 24. It did pretty well. I think mainly because it was very popular over in Japan.
Yeah, not surprising. This movie is gorgeous to look at. The
Hmm.
plot and story, there's some pieces left to be desired. But like you said,
I want to talk about all of them.
I know, 100% me too. But like you said, the comforting part of it is that it feels lived in. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. And you're just okay with that of just like, you know what, I'm not going to pull too many strings. By the end of it, you're like, I'm hoping for the resolution of everything, but you're not going to get it. You're going to get maybe one or two. But
This this movie asks you to be okay with certain plot elements just like either being non-existent or not making sense, and instead it's like, I'm going to take you on a ride of vibes, and you're going to enjoy it. It might not be the taste that you were looking for, but it'll end up being the taste that you like.
damn right.
um, all right, I want to get back into your first impressions, but first I would love to see you struggle to attempt to summarize the plot of Howl's Moving Castle in 1 minute. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, your time starts now.
Howl's Moving Castle centers around Sophie, who is a young hat maker in some town. It's like post-war, pre-war steampunk era. Who knows? But there's this giant castle that's moving around the countryside, and everyone's okay with it. They're like, "That's Howl. He steals young girls' hearts, but don't worry, you have to be pretty." So he comes and he saves her because she's about to get like assaulted in the street. He saves her, and then she runs into the Wicked Witch of the West of the Waste, and
30
and
seconds.
then she gets a curse put on her, and she's an old lady. But then she moves into Howl's castle, and she's like a cleaning lady, and that's where she meets Calcifer, a fire demon, and a little old boy who's getting some magic. There's political intrigue and drama and a war going on, but Howl is like a wizard, but also a bird person, and she travels through time somehow and meets him in his youth, and then comes back. And they break the curse. She breaks another curse with a giant scarecrow turnip head man, and there are really no consequences at the end of this movie, and they live happily ever after in the castle in the sky. Howl's Moving Castle. The end.
Okay, that was 1 minute 10, but I wanted to give you time to finish just because that was operatic. I loved it.
Th-
Um,
That's as best as I can boil
yes,
it down.
I honestly I think that captures this movie well because it starts out rather simply, like you're saying, everyone just like nagging Sophie for like how much she just has no prospects in life. She's like a Pride and Prejudice character. She's a perfectly fine looking woman. She seems
He's like,
nice,
I just want to
and
make
everyone's
hats.
like, "Oh, poor Sophie.
Yeah.
You really need to get out more." And she's like,
It's
"No."
like, yeah,
Uh,
I'm totally cool just making my badass hats.
and then I love how each new element of this film just expands on like how much is weird in this world, but also how much is accepted in this world. Like there's little ink men kind of going around working for the witch. The witch kind of goes around in this like cart that she squeezes into.
Hmm.
There's wizards working for the president or the king, and they're all supposed to report to the capital for the
And
war.
then there's
The
like,
war is so unspecific.
there's airships and bombing and bird people.
There's so many bird
So
people.
many bird people. It's wild. And then like spirit sprites and time travel. This movie has it all. And it is a ice cream sundae of just like throw everything on top. Because like you said, like within the
It's
first 3 minutes, it seems like it's going to be a normal ass movie, sort of with like one weird element. But then
mhm.
it's just like, nope, you got ink people. Nope, you got a flying wizard. Nope, you got a weird witch. Nope, you got a crazy like uh, uh, other witch who's working for the king, and nope, there's this crazy huge war going on, and like city pollution. It's insane.
I like how you mentioned steampunk because it definitely has that element. It's kind of like it exists in this fantasy world that's kind of like a version of our world in the early 20th century, maybe late 19th
Yeah,
century. There's like trains and stuff, but it's like civilization. but also on the edge of that is like this rugged countryside where anything's happening. I was trying to find a word for it. It's like, is it magic punk? Is it steam magic? Like
Ooh.
there's magic elements that need to be mixed in here,
Yeah,
right?
and it's just part of the world, and they're just like, yeah, don't worry.
Hmm.
Like that's the crazed wizard who lives on the outskirts of town with his castle
Yeah,
that's always moving. Not a big deal. Like everyone's just cool with it. But don't worry.
he's
Yeah.
he basically runs a pharmacy for them. They're like,
Oh
I
yeah.
have a headache. Yeah. So like that's like the role that these wizards play. They're kind of just regular human beings that learn magic, and then they just go out into the wild and do crazy shit.
Yeah, I love that you said physician or like a pharmacist, like those things of like describe a movie plot badly. Like narcissistic pharmacist falls in love with like, yeah, that'd be hilarious.
I think this movie is super like stylistically heavy. Like we've been saying, every frame is beautiful. You could screenshot any frame and like it could be your iPhone
Hang it
background,
in no, 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 fuck that. Hang it
Beautiful.
in the Louvre.
Hanging in a Louvre.
The
Um,
Louvre.
the way I like to think about this story is it's more about like it's kind of taking place on the sidelines of where a typical story set in this world would take place. A typical story would maybe focus more on the war and like how it's affecting people and stuff.
Right.
And instead that part of the story is a little bit more vague, and it's more just about this like found family aspect and like these people living in this castle and how they're trying to help each other.
Yeah, it could have taken a number of routes, and I thought it was going to go that uh you're talking about the war. I thought it was going to take kind of like the Pan's Labyrinth kind of approach of like the
Hmm.
fantastical versus like the reality. And I was like, maybe it's all
Hmm.
in her head, and like he's not really a wizard, but he is an actual pharmacist, or but like there is this crazy war going on at the same time, and this is her means of escape. But no, they didn't go that route. It is all of it living all at once, and it is focused more on the family aspect, which I liked. I would have liked, a little more attention paid to some of those other things, but I think it's okay, I guess, that you don't get the full, laundry list of resolutions that you want at the end
Hmm.
to answer all your questions of like who started the war, who's involved in the war, whose idea was it to I want like the turnip head backstory. I want all of that. Like who taught Solomon, who taught her, all that kind of stuff. Like doesn't matter at the end.
I I am always perfectly fine to like surf the vibes of this movie until the last like 2 minutes where Turnip Head turns into the missing prince that is like causing this war.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, what the fuck is happening right
Yeah.
now? It happens so quickly. It is resolved so quickly.
And like just bearing no consequence of anything that just happened. Like, yeah, we bombed all the town, but it's fine. Like they'll be all right.
It is this entirely new character introduced in the last 5 minutes of this movie who is like kind of crucial to the plot if this were a regular movie. But he literally just hops away and is like, let me go stop this war. um I think some of the ideas that we're circling here have to do with like this movie being an adaptation of a book. There's definitely pieces here that feel very specific to a world, and that world was written in this book. I haven't read the Diana Wynne Jones book, Howl's Moving Castle, but I did read the summary of it
It's just as
before.
good.
So I can kind of speak to the differences here. It seems
Yeah,
like,
speak on
from
that.
what I can tell, the elements are similar. I think there's probably more side characters in the book, and there's more focus on like the war and the causes of the war
Yeah.
itself. It seems like in the book, the setup is similar. Like Sophie's a hat maker. Hal's kind of this crazy legendary wizard out in the waste, and there's a witch of the waste. It's from what I can tell, the witch of the waste ends up cursing Sophie because Sophie has some sort of excuse me, inherent magical powers kind of coming out of her on her
Uh-huh.
own. She can like do stuff. And so the same thing happens where like she is cursed to become this 90-year-old woman. She ends up with Howl, and Howl is kind of spreading rumors about himself being like this lazy or manipulative or evil wizard, just so he doesn't have to do work.
Love it. Love it.
He's still like a very avoidant character. And then there's also the connection with Calcifer, and Calcifer promising to remove Sophie's curse if she can break the connection that Calcifer has with Howl.
Mhm.
The whole like Calcifer has
Heart,
Howl's
yeah.
heart and kind of the power transfer there. So that's all in place. And then the plot of the book, I think, is more specifically about finding the lost prince, who is named Justin. Go figure. Um, and so they're kind of like going on a quest from the king to find the prince. And like that's kind of the errand that Hal is attempting to avoid instead of just going to like work for the king or being summoned by the
See,
king.
that makes way more sense than
Yeah,
everything.
it seems like it's more straightforward.
Yeah, like
And like the Witch of the Waste is more of like a straightforward villain in that book, and she specifically has like her own version of Calcifer that like is more of a villain as
that's
well
cool.
that they
Yeah.
end up kind of dealing with. Whereas in in this movie, the Witch of the Waste's character goes through some insane plot
Is
transformations.
immediately sidelined, as soon as
Yeah.
they come in cahoots or meeting with Solomon, and she just
Uh-huh.
turned into like a puddle of a old woman, her actual age or whatever, and she's just a comedic uh, old lady at that point, a senile old lady, until she makes the turn where she ruins everything, and she like smothers Calcifer and like gets his heart and all that kind of stuff, like crazy.
I kind of love it. I think that like um a lesser movie would have kind of just used that as a joke, like her losing all her powers halfway through the movie and kind of just becoming this old movie, and then you see her trip and fall and run away. Instead, she becomes ingrained
The
in
family,
their family essentially because Sophie sees her and has like compassion in that way. This movie is all about like compassion for older people, but also like finding strength in new life as you become older.
yeah,
Because Sophie's kind of this like wallflower at the beginning of the movie when she's this like 20-year-old woman,
hmm,
and then she gets cursed to become a 90-year-old woman, and she kind of develops some spark. She develops some spunk. You kind of think like she almost prefers it this way. Like she's able to see the world in a new
yeah.
way and get out there and do what she's always wanted to do.
I hope you return to this movie when you are in your 80s, early 90s, and you're like, I
Yeah.
get it, I understand it finally.
It it doesn't make being old seem horrible.
No, I mean, she's all about it. She knows, she's like, "Hey, I'm just making the best of it." I wish they also would have explained a little more. I couldn't quite understand what was happening when, she was kind of like getting younger, getting older, getting younger, getting older,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Oh, maybe it's
It's
when she's, like, a little more in tune with herself or being true to herself, or when
yeah.
she's talking about Howl in a loving sense. Maybe there's that," but, like, it never was super clear what was going on.
Again, it's very much kind of like up for interpretation. The way I see it is it's exactly like you're saying. Like as she grows more into her own personhood and becomes more of like an individual character rather than a character in other people's stories, her truer younger self kind of shines through. And so it's a really cool evolution throughout the movie as they switch in between voice actresses, as depending on like what version of Sophie
Mhm,
is being shown. And when she first gets cursed, she kind of is like this super hunched
mhm,
older lady, and as she kind of gets more ingrained into this found family in the castle and develops more confidence and like really starts to take charge of her story, she's still older, but she's kind of like standing up
mhm.
straighter. She's maybe like 10 years younger. It's really cool how they do it. And then of course the movie ends with her like pretty much she's fully reverted back for like the last half hour of the movie, except she's got cooler hair.
Cool ass hair. And then,
Yeah.
similarly, Howl goes through some transformations as well. His hair dye obsession, and his outfit changes. I love that they made Howl getting progressively more and more androgynous. And
Hmm.
it was so much fun to see, just like all the random changes. And I don't understand
He be,
what they were going for there either, but it was fun.
he becomes very Jareth coded.
100%. Like as soon as he like lands down behind Sophie and like rescue her from the slop demons behind her,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, he's the Goblin King. This is if I'm sure David Bowie was busy because fucking David Bowie would have been a fantastic voice actor for that role.
Well, the thing I love is that it kind of subverts that too, because I mean, he's the titular character. Um, excuse me. He kind of lands. He literally lands out of thin air in the movie and has this like element of cool around him that is almost untouchable.
Oh
He's
yeah.
got this rock star energy. He's so suave. He's like wooing Sophie. You don't even know why he has an attraction to Sophie. You kind of find out later. And then she goes through this curse. She ends up like installing herself as the house cleaner of the castle, and you then start to see flashes of Howl literally being like a tempestuous 10-year-old.
Yeah.
He's kind of just like a little child who is trying to avoid work and just play all
And
day.
he's incredibly vain. Like my favorite quote is the only one that I can really remember from it. It's just like, "What's the point of living if I can't be beautiful?" It's like, "Oh, come on, grow up."
It's so great. It's he maybe has like the clearest journey throughout the film if we're talking about like typical like character journeys, because he's kind of this like devil may care wizard person at the beginning of the film, and that's very much reflected in the way that the castle, once you get to the interior, is laid out. Like it's very interesting to look at, and it's super cool, but it's also like
Not
messy
practical.
and
Yeah.
dusty, and like it's like a guy's den. It's like these bachelors all living together, and they don't really know how to take care of
Yeah,
themselves.
they're just
And so
hanging out. Yeah.
Sophie comes in and kind of teaches them practical ways to live, and she cleans up a bit, and that eventually is reflected in Howl's personality in a
Mhm.
way. It's cool to see how like the ways that the castle changes are all the ways that Howl changes as well, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so he eventually learns to step up and take ownership for his place in the world as well, as she is doing
That's
that.
right. Yeah, at the end he's, like, I'm done running away. I need to become a bird person. You need to let me fly, and he does. Before we get too much further, I'd love to look at the trailer. It's a short one, but let's look at the gorgeous visuals we've been talking about.
Oh my goodness, I just want to hear the
Yeah.
music.
From master filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki, the director of the Academy Award-winning Spirited Away.
That is ancient sorcery. And quite powerful, too.
This summer, experience the epic tale of a young woman transformed by a mysterious curse.
That's really me, isn't it?
An enchanted moving castle,
This is a magic house.
and the one wizard powerful enough to set her free.
This charm will guarantee your safe return.
Walt Disney Studios presents a Studio Ghibli production of a Hayao Miyazaki film.
Hold on.
This June, journey to amazing new worlds
Find me in the future!
aboard Howl's Moving Castle.
Amazing.
See, Like, God bless this movie. But after watching that, would you have any idea what the movie's about?
No fucking clue. It was like, find me in the future. What's going on here? Who's even really involved? Was that a bird man? Is he a bird wizard? What's happening? And
This movie rewards a rewatch, I would say.
it definitely does. So I will say that we took a shining to this movie. We did find. I'm going to send you a picture of it when it comes in. We'll take a picture of it on our shelf and we'll put it on the Instagram. We found this really cool thing on Etsy. It's like a little lantern kind of handmade thing with like a little calcifer inside of it. It looks really cool. We're like, oh man, is this going to be like our whole personality now? Do we love Ghibli movies? Probably.
Yeah.
But like I said, whenever we have some time between watching, you know, uh, uh, drop out Dimension 20 seasons or whatever is on TV or movies for the podcast, it's like we should go back and watch, the rest of the Ghibli films because they all, like you said, I think they all kind of had the same kind of vibe. From what I remember from not studio, from Spirited Away, it feels very
Mhm.
similar of just like fantastical worlds, but like really lived in wacky shit goes on, black gloopy monsters, food is a beautiful element to it as well. There's a neat story
Mhm.
underneath all the layers, but that's what I remember from it.
Yeah, from the movies that I've seen, and like entire books have been written on this, so like I'm not going to be able to describe it too well, but like Ghibli films and Miyazaki films in particular, he's kind of like the head of this production house, but he doesn't do every single movie. They do tend to look similar to this movie. So you have movies like Spirited Away. Other movies that I've seen from Ghibli are The Wind Rises, which actually takes place in like Japan in the 30s and 40s.
Ooh.
It's more of like a realistic movie. I've seen, what have I seen? Like Secret World of Arrietty. I kind of fell asleep during Princess Mononoke. I feel kind of bad about that. But they one of the things I always think about when I think about Ghibli movies is that they definitely take the time to be like still or to be quiet in certain scenes and to just like have almost nothing happening. There's like a famous scene in Spirited Away where she's on the train
Mm-hmm.
kind of between worlds, and it's almost like a minute and a half or 2 minutes of this like really famous like piano piece playing, and it's kind of slow, it's kind of sorrowful, it's kind of like wondrous
Mm-hmm.
in a way, and it's literally just her and her little group sitting in silence on this train going past different things while things happen around them, and it's kind of incredible. It's not something that you really see in a lot of American movies,
Yeah.
and that does pop up in Howl's Moving Castle a bit as well.
Yeah, they want you to kind of like stay in the moment and appreciate the surroundings, appreciate
Hmm.
the backgrounds, or like you said, the score, or stuff like that. So I feel like these movies are, yeah, I can see why they are like considered like the Disney, the upper echelon, but I think it has more of an artistic flair to it, like
Hmm.
like an art house or an independent film company would churn out because they take the time to craft every frame. I want to know more about the backstory of the score and how I meant to look up the composer who wrote it of just like what's the story there like because it all plays
Hmm.
together so well. It's fantastical but mournful but uplifting but journeyous. I don't know. It's weird.
There's really not a lot of corners that are cut with these movies, and like I've listened to other podcasts talk about Ghibli, and the things that I know is like if you're comparing Ghibli to Disney, there's things to take note of where like Ghibli movies and Miyazaki movies specifically take like a really long time, and so you're not going to get like 2 or 3 a year like you would get with
Yeah.
Disney. And they also like tend to put caps on merchandising as well, so
Ooh.
they're not like completely driven by let's make this like a plushy character that we can sell billions on.
Yeah.
You're not going to have minions in Ghibli movies.
Absolutely not. Which is something I
Um,
appreciate. It's refreshing. It's I feel like how capitalism should be ran, not just a race to the bottom line to make the most amount of money for the cheapest amount possible, and then on to the next thing. Um,
They're kind of like a non-profits movie studio, which makes
it makes no sense.
Okay, do you want to go off on a complete tangent
Yes.
and let me tell you about the stress dream I had before watching the movie?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, I had a stress dream about our podcast.
Okay. This is not the first time that's happened.
we no, it pops up sometimes. So we did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles towards the beginning of this month. We're in September right now, and we are just at the end of September. Recording.
It is literally the 30th, and I'm going to release this episode tonight. So
yeah. So I was like, oh, we're taking too long of a time in between episodes. We're going to lose all our followers and all that stuff. Yeah. And so I think that was all developing in my subconscious and the way that it manifested. Okay. So about a week ago, I had a dream where, Olivia Rodrigo?
I'm familiar.
Okay. She's like pop star, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift-esque person on the scene now. For some reason, in my dream, she had gone to high school with some of my younger siblings, and so like I knew her tangentially, and I was like, let's get her on the pod. Okay. So she was going to be on one of our podcast episodes. I don't know if it was for Howl's Moving Castle or if it was just like in general. Yeah. And I literally get dropped into the dream Inception style. And for some reason, even in our dreams, we cannot figure out the fucking audio for this podcast. So we're like trying to record the podcast over the phone as I'm walking through this like crowded city. And so like I'm trying to first off remember what movie we're talking about, remember questions to ask. It starts raining.
Of course.
Olivia's like on the other end of the line. I think we're like trying to get to a studio where she's at, but like we're late. And so we're starting the podcast now. And I'm like on like a flip phone, trying to like get a vibe going. It starts raining. There's static happening. I'm missing what she's saying. We end up going into an elevator where the phone call cuts off.
No.
And so it's like, fuck. And then we finally get to the studio and we realize that none of it had been recorded. And so we lost all of the audio. That's where the dream ended.
Oh my God. And you wake up in a cold sweat. Oh my God. How stressful.
So
that's amazing, though.
We can never have her on, is what I'm saying.
I was going to say the opposite. So it seems like we need to tag her in this episode with that specific clip. Shout out Olivia Rodrigo.
The only way to fix this karma is to have Olivia Rodrigo on when we talk about horror movies next miniseries.
Don't tempt fate. Ryan is unafraid to tag her. We will follow her and wait for that follow back, Olivia.
We're really gonna get it. Anyway, that's just kind of the mindset I am in going into watching Howl's Moving Castle.
I love that. And so like you're just on like stress hormones the whole time watching it, just being like, I don't know what we're gonna do, what we're gonna talk about. And it's all working out. We're doing great. We're 43 minutes in. This is amazing.
I'm a natural podcaster.
You are. It was what you were born to do. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. This movie was so much fun though, Joe. I think it, like you said, it definitely warrants a rewatch because there is so much to take in and look at. I feel like you could see something in each new subsequent watch of like, oh, that's a really neat detail, or oh, I missed that one piece of dialogue. That's interesting. I mean, and it's not. This movie isn't terribly long. What is it? It's like it's under 2 hours.
It's probably like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah. So it's not a laborious watch. But like I said, we were going to kind of take on the task of just completing or at least as much as we wanted to, the Ghibli circle gauntlet of watching, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, even though you said you fell asleep during it, but I'm going to try and like wash that from my memory.
It may have just been a late night. I also haven't seen some of the more popular ones, like My Neighbor Totoro or Kiki's Delivery Service or Ponyo. Those like are extremely fan favorites that I haven't seen. So like I have a journey of my own with Miyazaki.
Yeah, maybe we put a bow on it and we circle back.
Do a little mini
Do a little
series.
mini series, the Ghibli mini series, and just circle the wagons. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, one of the I mean, I really didn't have too many notes while watching this because I was trying to just like, stay tuned in. But one of the ones I had kind of throughout was just like I kept thinking about like the power of stories that don't have a lot of explanation or like leave you with no explanation in certain areas, like the way that this movie just introduces things and they are suddenly just part of the story. They don't. There's a lot of world building here, but maybe not a lot of backstory, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely,
And
100%.
the way that it kind of affects us, maybe it's because we're like American viewers and we're used to a certain like very templated
100%.
style of story.
Yes.
It's interesting like what you focus on when those templates aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been talking about all these details and all these themes that maybe wouldn't have come up if this was more of a straightforward narrative, right?
Yeah. We're educated gentlemen. We are cultured to some degree, even though we switch off every other episode of being uncultured. But I feel like, like for me watching this movie, I had the artist's perspective of just like, oh, this frame is gorgeous, or like I can't imagine the amount of time it took to like just that one foreground of the blades of grass or that running sequence is just effortless and gorgeous, and it pays off. Or from the music aspect, like how you latch onto with a lot of movies. So I feel
it's almost just as much something to be looked at as it is something to be watched, if that makes sense.
To be watched
like
and analyzed.
Yeah, it's just as much of a story as it is like a work of art that you're just like interpreting in a way, which is most movies. I mean, Miyazaki probably thinks about this movie and he's like, yeah, that's one of my more straightforward stories.
And you're like, excuse me?
And we're just like, it's completely abstract.
He's like, absolutely not. It's not. Like the war is clearly a metaphor for consumerism. Can't you see that? Or vanity. Like it's all that kind of stuff.
It's a hugely thematic movie, and it's a lot about these characters living within themes. So I went online and I found kind of a list of the major themes throughout this movie that people always think
Give
through.
it to me. I love this shit.
Obviously, like pacifism is a big element of this movie. It's very anti-war, but it's also very like look at what war does to creativity and look at what war does to individuality. It turns these wizards into
bird people,
into an army of similar gloopy bird people.
Yeah.
And they lose their selves, right?
Yeah.
And so Howl is kind of a lazy piece of shit, but he's also kind of trying to save himself and play both sides of the war. I don't know if you caught that, but like when he has his two like pseudonyms, he's actually like the two different areas that his castle is able to like teleport to. Yeah. They're like in different kingdoms. So he's like he has shops in both sides of this war.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I thought it was just like at random spots around town. I didn't realize that it was just opposing sides of the war. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's like the seaside, and then it's like the Capitol building and stuff.
Wow.
But it's meant to be kind of confusing because it's meant to be like these two areas are extremely similar. Why are they fighting each other?
Because the prince is missing, and he turned himself into a turnip somehow. A turnip scarecrow. He was cursed.
Everyone's getting cursed in this world,
and everyone's okay with it. Everyone's just fine.
So pacifism, definitely something that Miyazaki is pushing in this movie, especially compared to the novel. It's not as much of a big thing in the novel, but he's very much taking an anti-war stance. So, it's 2004.
Yeah, right. It's hot off the cusp, on the heels of 2011 or 2001, 9/11 specifically. So I know Ryan is very interested in wanting to read the books. Or at least this one book, and kind of see like, is there more resolution? Is there more stuff that they left out in the movie? And like you're saying, there definitely is. So I know that she'll gobble that up. Quick other side tangent, real quick. I know we're talking about, you mentioned anti-war propaganda, that kind of thing. I watched a TikTok last night from Pat Lawler. Do you follow them?
I'm not really on TikTok these days.
Oh, yeah. Well, you need to get back on it.
It's because I'm better than most people.
We've done a full 180. I'm on TikTok and I'm better than you. I'm off TikTok. I'm way better than you now. Pat Lawler, like the former combat medic, whatever, came back, huge anti-war, but also like mental health, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, they were talking about the book series for young adults that we all read. I'm sure maybe you didn't. Animorphs from the mid '90s into the
I
early 2000s.
know a lot of them. I never actually read them, but I know exactly what you're talking
But
about.
apparently, the author K.A. Applegate like dug into a lot of anti-war stuff into this young adult series, and it's crazy the amount of things. And they talk about just the sheer amount of madness that goes on in these kids' books.
Because Animorph is about like teenagers doing space wars across like 20 installments, right?
Pretty much. Like there's 65 books, first of all.
Oh my god!
Over the course of 65 books, like it starts out really silly that they can just transform into animals, but change back after 2 hours. But then it morphs into like this alien war, and they're committing war crimes and like genocide and all this kind of stuff, and like questioning their morality about it. And it's just a huge bummer.
The last book is like pick which planet to nuke, kids.
Pretty much, right? But after we watched that TikTok yesterday, it's like, oh well, maybe we should search eBay and get the complete series because I'm on a kick of reading a bunch of old books from my childhood. I bought all the original Goosebumps books.
Oh hell yeah!
And yeah, so I'm reading those.
How many is that? That's got to be like 100 plus.
Well, so I stopped it at like before they diverted, so it's just 1 through 50.
Before they got weird.
Yeah, but I'm having a good time. I'm on book 7 right now, so it's great. But next in line is going to be Animorphs. Anyway, end of tangent. Anti-war.
Let's keep going with the tangents. The Slappy dummy from Goosebumps terrified me as a child.
See, he didn't to me because it looked terrible.
See, that's insane.
It looked terrible, not like the cover of the book that I was used to, that I had envisioned in my head. So when I saw the overly round cheeks and stuff like that, I was like, that's not scary at all. I myself had a ventriloquist dummy as a kid because of the book. I bought one. I had one as a kid.
Oh, Justin,
I know.
We both came to a fork in the road there, and we went different directions. Oh my god, Justin's wearing a Goosebump shirt with Slappy on it. What the fuck?
Yeah, weird.
I didn't even see that before.
I know. It's weird how we circle around like that.
You freak. Okay. Yeah. So excuse me, y'all. I am getting over a cough and this is disgusting.
It's COVID.
It's not COVID. I took like 8 tests. So talking about Diana Wynne Jones, I haven't read the Castle books that she has, although I'm sure they are wonderful and you should add them to your list. She did have a separate series called Dark Lord of Dirkholm that feels very similar to this. It's kind of like it's very like young adult fantasy with a twist, which seems to be her lane, right? Yeah. The series is about a fantasy world where like magic exists and griffins and dragons and stuff, but a super like capitalist evil businessman from our world figured out a way to break into their world, and he's like blackmailing them all and like financing them in order for the fantasy world to basically like put on a production on a yearly basis of like cosplaying as fantasy basically. And the businessman guy makes people pay from Earth to come to this world and like do tours of it, and like they get to like basically LARP around this fantasy world. And so the book is about like how everyone in the fantasy world is slowly but surely like getting pissed off that they have to do this every year, but also they are like economically reliant on this guy. It's very fun.
That's really cool. Yeah. Okay. So like, is the financier, is he like a Ronald Drumpf or an Ellen?
He's played as this like cold, like robotic businessman guy.
Just a real piece of shit.
Yeah. It's It's fun. I would definitely recommend.
Oh God, Joe! I just
Um,
realized that my bat light is not on. Vamp for a second.
I'm gonna vamp on what Justin's Batlight is. He's walking around his studio right now. It looks like he's turning something on. Oh, the Batlight is a
Now it's on. I feel so much better about it.
okay. The Batlight,
The bat signal.
for listeners who can't see, is a light that's on the wall behind Justin that was off this entire episode.
We have to start
And now
over.
it's on.
Can you remember everything we said?
Okay. This is just like my dream.
I'm gonna delete this episode as soon as we're done.
I quit everything. Let me kind of quickly cover some of the other themes of Howl's Moving Castle that are kind of floating around. So you definitely have pacifism. You have like old world technology clashing with new. This is very much like an industrial movie. It's very much like turn of the century. You have these like populated towns where like steam engines and locomotives are going around, but then you also have like the waste, which is like farmland and like practically medieval, and there's castles and stuff. So it's very much like a clash of worlds happening there, and a clash of the values that come with it, right? Are we becoming too reliant on our machines? Are we becoming too cold? Are we losing our humanity? That sort of stuff.
That's cool.
We talked about finding new life and usefulness in old age. I think a lot of Miyazaki's films are about this, and how about like being old can be a blessing when it's usually treated like baggage in a lot of societies. And I think his latest film, the Boy and the Heron, is like specifically about like life becoming death and all of that. So I'm pretty excited to see it. Other themes involve questioning authority, not really following blindly when your king asks you to commit to a generic war, and then found family. The families that we're born with don't necessarily have to be the ones that we connect to and end up with, because Sophie's family in this movie doesn't suck, but kind of seems to ignore her in a way.
Her mom fucking sucks.
Her mom's so weird.
Her mom accepted a bribery, or not even a bribery, just like a cash reward to like, hey, go deliver this trap or whatever to Howl's castle, and you get to stay married to your rich sugar daddy. And she's like, well, see you later.
I think the whole family just sees Sophie as kind of this like pushover, stick in the mud, and they can just kind of do whatever with her. She's nice, but they don't really take her seriously.
Yeah, her family sucks. Her new family, great. Magical. Yeah.
I do love that that's the ending shot of like the castle has kind of healed itself, it's transformed, it can fly now, and it's like, look at how this family now has room here. It's bigger in a way to fit the more people that now live in this castle. Markle, the young kid played by Jess Hutcherson, who we haven't even talked about, is kind of running around with the dog while the old Witch of the Waste watches. I don't know if you caught that, like Calcifer's fire in that ending scene is now like in like a little pizza oven area in the back courtyard, which is cool. And then obviously Sophie and Howl just hanging out on the bow,
just boning. Yeah, just making out hard in the sunset.
They're kissing so hard.
But yeah, it does have a really good warm and fuzzy ending. I don't know if it's warranted, because it is just like wrapped up so fucking quick of just like, yep,
it really is.
War's over and we're all good, and now we're a nice happy family.
It's almost played for laughs how the Solomon like quasi evil sorceress lady is like, yeah, I'm kind of tired of this. Let's just stop the war. Like, what's next?
Yeah, there you are. All right. Call the king. Tell him we're done here. No more war. Like, what happens to the rest of the wizard bird people? Never know.
I think it's kind of just like they sold their souls and they suck now,
I guess. Yeah. The final, his final form, Howl's final form of a one-legged, black feathered, long-necked, tiny head bird person is terrifying to me.
You want to know something even more terrifying that I noticed this past watch? I always thought he was a one-legged creature. If you look closely, he had two legs. One of them's chopped off. He's got like a nub where the second leg should be. It's because he was like fighting all those like evil wizards in the sky before she saved him.
Oh,
He literally has like a cut off leg.
whoa.
It's insane.
I didn't catch that. No, I thought he was just a one-legged bird creature.
Yeah,
Like that's
it's
your
crazy.
final form. No, that's horrifying. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't pay too
Yeah.
much detail or attention to that.
One of the things, I'm just kind of going through my notes at this point. I was watching this with Jonathan, and he wanted to point out that he thought there was a lot of overlap between this movie and Interstellar. Like where the plot does shine through in this movie, it really kind of shines through. There's a sequence where Sophie's trying to like figure out how to save Howl, both like physically, emotionally, spiritually, and stuff, as Howl is kind of succumbing to his inner demons and like fighting everyone off. And so she kind of goes into his past somehow, like goes into his memories in a way, and like is able to communicate with him. It's very Interstellar, and like let's go
To the
back to the
Tesseract,
past
yeah.
and like send them a message that will help us in the future.
That was the exact vibe I got too. I was like, oh, she's
Mhm.
in like the memories and, meet me in the future. And it was very, very strange. But yeah, I got the same kind of vibes of like she, on the black color of the door, like that's only where Howell
Mhm.
goes. Only he knows where to go through there. But she, she had the ring and it brought her to him.
And again, like because magic exists in this world, it's not really explained how any of this even works. It just kind of shows it, but you get the feeling that like if you sat down with these characters, with these wizards, they could explain how it worked. It's just like that's not what the movie is concerned with.
No. Nope. And us as the viewers just have to be okay with it because it's you're not going to get the resolution you want or the answers that you want. But at the end of the day, it's cool. It's cool, man.
It's a fucking cool movie.
It's a cool movie.
I like this movie more and more with each rewatch.
Yeah, I had a good time with it, and I'm excited to add it to the just like general rewatch repertoire that we have
Mhm.
building. This I'm not even going to attempt to even shit on this movie, other than just like it was weird, but it was
It's
charmingly weird.
it's weird and slow and jarring, but it's also interesting to look
Mhm.
at the very least.
Like we like Ryan and I, we were fully and completely flabbergasted by the end of just like what is happening. What did we just watch? But we bought something on Etsy of like a custom calcifer thing because we're going to put it on the shelf, and
It's
because we bought into
it's hypnotizing
it
you.
is hitting, yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
like I said, I was just so enamored by the artistry and the score, the just like effortlessness of Howl, the charming humanity behind Sophie, and then just
Mhm.
fucking Billy Crystal's there, just vibing it out.
Yeah, one of the thoughts I had, like we talked about how the voice cast is like weirdly stacked. It's a lot of like interesting, unique voices. I think the fact that this movie is dubbed, we're watching the English version of a Japanese movie, creates like even more of like an auditory disconnect, like subconsciously. Like it's not a fantastic dub in a way. Like it doesn't really bother to like match things up.
Mhm.
Like there's definitely like the mouths are moving and the sounds aren't matching the mouths. But it kind of like adds to the world for me. Like I believe these characters exist in a world where they sound like that and they look weird while talking.
Yeah, it was almost kind of like a graphic novel come to life kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Because like we're when you get into your 30s, or just becoming a older millennial, when you watch anything on TV, you have to have the closed captioning on, the subtitles. So I wasn't even bothered by the sync not being there for the lips, or dub, which was fine because like I knew what I was in for. I knew that this was an English dub and like it wasn't the original. So like it was fine. But
Mhm.
just reading the subtitles like didn't even matter to me. So but I can see
Yeah.
how that would kind of remove it in a way.
It's interesting, like dubbing as an art form, like taking or adding things to a movie.
Mhm.
Okay, before we get into our end game, Justin, we keep forgetting about the cocktails. What
Oh,
what are you drinking this episode? Tell me about
this
it.
one's fun. It's very pretty. I took a really great picture of it. I'm calling this the Mr. Turnip Head. It's
Mm-hmm.
based on an existing cocktail called the Scarecrow, but I switched some things around. So this is tequila Campari instead of Aperol. Cinnamon syrup, cinnamon infused syrup. Lemon
Ooh.
and orange wedged or muddled wedges muddled, and it's this nice little tangerine color. It's got a little bit of spice on the back end. It's really quite lovely.
Very
I was gonna go
nice.
the extra mile, but I didn't have high enough proof alcohol. I was gonna put like the little flame on top and sprinkle cinnamon for the calcifer effect, but
Mm,
I didn't have any high proof alcohol. But if you want to try that, be our guest.
mm.
That's
Justin, we're always so similar. Um, I have what I am calling Heart of the Wizard.
ooh,
And so same vibes. It is essentially an Aperol spritz, which is chilled Aperol, a little bit of bubbly, a little bit of club soda. I have put a Luxardo cherry in the middle as the heart.
ooh, yeah.
House heart within Calcifer. We also tried to add Grand Marnier to this and set it on fire. No matter what we did, like there's like half of this is Grand Marnier because we tried
So
so
many
many
times.
times and like we were trying to flame it. It wouldn't light up. If you can get that to happen, you can call it a flaming Heart of the Wizard.
Oh,
This is just a Heart of the Wizard with a lot of extra Grand Marnier in
yeah.
it. But the intention is
To
for
be
it
set on
to,
fire.
have a little burst.
Yeah. That's great. I love that we both wanted to do that.
Yeah, and we both failed.
Miserably. But yeah, this is great. This is a great cocktail to go with the movie. It's warm and cozy. This movie definitely gives September fall vibes, and I think that's all Ghibli films are. Period. Is it's all about vibes and cozy comfort. Um,
Mm,
this movie is bright, but it's so well lived in, and the castle itself is so homey. Um,
it's very colorful.
yeah, and you feel just like safe in it, even though there's madness going on outside. There's madness
Mhm.
holding the whole thing together. A fire demon is keeping it running, but it's totally fine. But yeah, this with the cinnamon spice and the orange and all that kind of stuff, it's perfect for the time of year. And I love that we timed it, or not even really timed it, but like this is the time that it came about.
This is wildcard month, baby. We have let the fates decide, and they have chosen
Yeah,
well.
they did.
All right. Let us get into our end game
Right.
before we talk about like where we're going next
Yeah.
month. Are you ready to play a little game? I understand that you've made a little something, as you often do these episodes.
I made a little something. So you sent
Okay.
me the title of the game called Castlemania, and that was it. That's all you
Yeah.
told me. So I
Yep.
ran in 3 different directions, and you'll see in the video, and I'll explain afterwards. Yeah.
Justin, that was beautiful.
I told you it was a headphoner. You had to wear headphones for it.
for those listeners who are just listening, that was essentially a slow electric guitar version of the theme from Howl's Moving Castle, played over clips of Howl's Moving Castle, WrestleMania, and Castlevania, the video
Damn
game,
right.
which is exactly the vibe I was hoping for.
Was it? Oh, amazing.
Did you play the guitar
Yeah,
there?
that was 4 different guitars layered all on top of each other and panned hard left and right. That was the hardest thing I ever to do. That song is so intricate and like delicate, but it was fun.
Justin,
It was fun.
if it ever becomes legal for you to release that, I want a copy of that.
Why would it not be illegal? But anyway.
Okay, let's play Castlemania. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
You are a young wizard on the run from love and responsibility, and naturally, it's time to construct your moving wizard castle with help from the fire demon that swallowed your heart, just like your hero, Howl.
Yep.
Everyone across the land knows that the more knowledgeable the wizard, the more power they have over how their castle is built. So, in order to test this, we're going to build each section of your castle. The sections are kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, secret tower, courtyard, and exterior. Okay?
Yep.
6 sections. For each section that we build, I'll ask you a trivia question about castles. If you answer correctly, you get to choose how the section is built and you can describe it to us.
Got it.
If you answer incorrectly, I get to choose how the section is built, and it may be a bit more chaotic.
I love it.
So we're going to build your castle. Okay?
Let's do it.
I would like to thank Jonathan for helping with the concept of this game.
That's my boy.
Okay. So starting with the
Starting
kitchen. Are you ready? Castle trivia. In classic medieval castles, what is the name for the large tower or structure that typically stands at the center of the castle, its safest place?
This is not multiple choice.
This is not multiple choice.
What is the name?
I'm leaving you out to dry.
What is the name of the tower in the center of the castle?
Yeah, or like the main building.
Is it the Citadel?
Incorrect. The word I was looking for is keep.
The keep. Okay, so how are we fucking up my kitchen?
So because you got it wrong, your kitchen is a Red Robin drive-through, fully staffed, and you do have to employ all the people who work there.
Oh my God, great. That's fine. I'm all about small business.
It's not the worst. Okay, let's move on to your bathroom. Do you like how I'm kind of stylizing this like an HGTV
This
show?
is great, yeah.
Okay, bathroom. Castle is an American TV series that aired for 8 seasons and stars Nathan Fillion. Name one more TV series that Nathan Fillion has a lead role in.
Was it a TV series? That's the meme. He was the lead in Dr. Horrible's Sing Along, but that wasn't a TV series, so I don't. Oh wait, no, Firefly.
Yeah. I would accept it Firefly or The Rookie, which I think he's currently starring in.
Who watched TV?
Okay, you got that one right. So you get to tell me how you would do your bathroom. And the way you can do this is you can just describe your bathroom, or you can like pull a bathroom from a movie or TV show that you would just use.
It's going to be like a ancient Roman bathhouse, just like bunch of tile, but like open concept essentially. So it's like you can bathe over there, you can bidet over here, you can shit over there in that corner. Like it's a free for all. But it's gorgeous.
Fantastic.
It's gorgeous. And it's like
your Red Robin employees will love it.
It's kind of subterranean too. So it's like underground. It's kind of like a grotto. There's a waterfall in there. Anyway, yep.
Yeah. The castle kind of has that magic on it where like it can be bigger on the inside than it is on the outside,
Absolutely, yeah.
So space is your friend here. All right, let's move on to the bedroom.
Okay.
The castle or rook is a key piece in the game of chess. How many squares are there on a chessboard?
64.
Correct. Tell me about your bedroom.
The bedroom's going to have 6 different beds, all arranged in a circle, and each bed has a different purpose. So there is like the heavy sleeping bed, and that's for long periods, long rests. There's a one that's not quite so plush, and it's a little smaller. It's for short rests. There's another one that is for just like straight on regular lovemaking, and then there's another one for more adventurous lovemaking. It's got like waterproof sheets and all that kind of shit. There's another one that's like it's like a hammock essentially, but it's big enough for two people. And then the last bed is just like it's more castle appropriate. It's kind of just a pallet, but it's just like old worn hay and that kind of stuff, so you can feel
For
like the vibes that you get.
for when you're going for
Going
vibes.
for
Yeah.
vibes of just like, hey, we're in a castle, might as well sleep like we're in one, Uh, yeah,
Incredible.
and then
Incredible.
windows on the westerly side, and a bay window on the eastern side. Yep.
Yeah. Hot in the winter, cold in the summer.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to your secret tower.
Secret tower.
Your question. Castle Rock is a fictional town in Maine typically associated with what author?
Stephen King.
Of course. Yes. Okay. Tell me about your secret tower.
Secret tower is not so secret because everyone knows about it. um, so it's just there for everyone's general use. It's kind of a you bring the inside of the tower is what you bring with it. So like it's your own interpretation of what it is. So
Sure. Yeah.
if it's a secret, arms keep, when you open the door, that's what it is. If you think it's a secret seventh lovemaking bedroom, that's what it is. Or if it's just a hollow tower, kind of like that one level in Super Mario 64 where the stairs just kind of keep going forever. It's one of those. But it's whatever
So
you bring.
your tower is the room of requirement from Harry Potter.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yep.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Let's repurpose that. Okay. Let's move on to your courtyard.
Mhm.
Miyazaki directed another film released in 1985 called Castle in the Sky. If there was an actual castle in Earth's atmosphere, what is the commonly accepted rate of acceleration it would have as it plummeted to the ground?
What is it? It's 9.8 feet per second. Is that?
I'll give it to you. It's 9.8 meters per second squared. You got it.
Yep.
Tell me about your courtyard.
As I push up my glasses.
You big nerd.
Big fucking nerd. Courtyard is modeled exactly after the courtyard from the book series Game of Thrones. The courtyard of Sir Loras, the Prince of Flowers, or the what was he? Yeah, he was the Prince of Flowers.
Yeah, he was the Tyrell.
Yeah, so it's just flowers for days and babbling brooks and stuff like that. It's just real gorgeous. It's great.
Hell yeah. I'd hang out
Yeah.
there. Okay. All right, last one. Your exterior, just like the outer shell of the castle, right? In the movie Howl's Moving Castle, which this episode is about, what is the name of one of Howl's wizard aliases?
Pendragon is one of them.
Okay.
The other is was it like Mr. something? I can't remember.
It was either Pendragon or Jenkins.
Jenkins. Yeah, I knew it was like some
Jenkins.
fucking Jenkins. All right, so my exterior is iridescent. On it, so it's like angled. It's like a pyramid kind of shape on each square. So it's iridescent on one side and it's like reflective on the other, and it the other like absorbs UV light and the other side kind of refracts it. It's multi-purpose,
just like a million dark sides of the moon.
It's exactly that. But it also can be invisible at the right angle, but can also be highly like blinding to the eye on other angles. So it's very dangerous, and so we're constantly causing fires as we move around. But it's fine. It's fine because everyone's okay with it. They're just like, that's Justin's moving castle. It's just really weird.
It sounds beautiful. All right, Justin, you did very well on Castlemania. I kind of wish I had made these harder so that I could fuck with you more. But I'll send you some of the wrong answer options that I had. Because the castle would have sucked. Okay. final thoughts on Howl's Moving Castle. How do you feel about expanding your Miyazaki Ghibli repertoire here?
I'm really excited to do it. I know Ryan is excited as well. It's all cozy and it's all vibes, and there you might learn a thing or two at the end, and that's something that we vibe with and we fuck with. This is a wacky one for certain, but it's a pretty one, and like c'est la vie, like that's life, right?
In the end, the castle really was the
Because we made
prize
along the way.
way.
Yes, it was. Joe, why don't you tell the listeners what we're doing to kickstart spooky season of October?
Hell yeah. Okay. So we are, as most people know, in year 2 of the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. So what we'll probably do is like inner SERP wild card months like September, like we're having right now, with more themed months like we've done in the past.
Yep.
And so we're rounding off September and we're going into October, which is obviously hashtag spooky season, and we love it.
Yes, we do.
Spooky season will start with a Justin pick that I have never seen. We will be seeing this in theaters tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow.
In person. We'll post pics to the gram. It is a infamous scary movie. Some would say the scariest movie. We will be watching and talking about The Exorcist.
Yeah, dude. I'm super excited. I stand by that that air quote of it being the scariest movie, because it is.
I'm a little nervous. I don't know what to expect here.
It's fine because we're going to see it at 4:00 in the afternoon at a shitty movie theater off of the interstate. So like, it's fine.
I truly wonder like who's actually going to be there. I know like the iconography of The Exorcist. I don't really know too much about like the story. So I'm kind of nervous to poo my pants. I don't know.
There's some juicy bits to unearth throughout the movie, and there's some good just like urban legend stuff to dig into around the production of the movie. So like, I'm really excited to talk about it. And I'm a sucker for, we found anytime we do a movie in person, it adds a little extra panache to the episode and to the experience overall. But it's really cool. I love that studios are doing that more and more. They're like bringing back classics or stuff like that. And especially our local theater, the Plaza Theater in Atlanta, they do somehow align with our exact blind spots of movies and our tastes in film a lot of the time. But yeah, that's what we're doing for October. We're gonna go watch that on October 1st, and we'll probably drop it. This is gonna be a banked episode, Joe. We're gonna watch it, and then we're gonna record it sometime next week and drop it the week after or towards the end of next week. Who knows? Just to stay on top of things, because Joe famously likes to go out of town for weeks at a time in places. Hashtag must be nice. Anyway, this was a great episode.
Can't help that I'm a citizen of the world.
I know. Just got to get out there. I had so much fun with this one, Joe. So thanks for opening up the door a little more for Miyazaki and for Studio Ghibli.
I'm excited for you to open the door a little further.
That's great. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your September.
And with that,
we're out of here.
Bye.